Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. You're at the spot, the place, where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Did you bring your thinking caps? It's time to put them on, because the conversation starts now. Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. You're back at the spot, the place, where the conversations are pointed, the guests over there are sharp, and the responses are never dull. We are with Jay Fairbrother. Okay. He says that he can help people with six-figure masterminds. I'm going to talk to him about that because where is the comma and where is the decimal point in those six figures? Everybody wants to do that. What is a mastermind versus a master mess? And where is the master magic? You got to do the work, brains. You got to do the work. But you have to be in alignment and in synchronicity with the same type of vibration, frequency, energy, people, power, passion, punch, all of that. You can't just be with just any old body because you are what you eat and you are who you hang around. Right, Jay?
100%. You just nailed that.
Okay, so we're going to talk to Jay about how he shows up in the world and a whole lot more. Welcome to the show, Jay Fairbrother.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm glad to have you here.
On the edge.
That's right. That's with a bunch of brains. And my brains are receptive because they want to know. Again, people always talk about that, and we'll get into it after I hear a little bit about your story, but they always talk about a mastermind, putting it together, what it actually means. They think that it's this big $25 word that, it's another networking group. It's a lot more than that. So tell us a little bit about how you show up in the world.
Yeah, so my story of how I sort of got started with Masterminds, 30 years ago, I started my first business, and I was pretty successful right out of the gate, grew it to about $1 million in revenue, but I got stuck. I couldn't seem to get beyond that $1 million range, and I hired coaches and consultants and read all the business books, and I couldn't figure out how to scale beyond that million range. And that's when I joined my first mastermind. So that was 25 years ago. And, I'm at an age where I can barely remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. But I still remember 25 years ago walking out of that first meeting and saying to myself, oh my God, I found my tribe. Like in one meeting, I knew like these were my people. They got me, they understood me, they were me. And so this was a mastermind for entrepreneurs. And we joined the mastermind just to grow our businesses, become better entrepreneurs, right? Well, 5 or 6 months into it, I'm starting in these meetings, I'm starting to watch grown men break down and cry and open up about their messed up marriages and their kid problems and the anxiety and depression they have from, the business overtaking their lives. And this wasn't what we signed up for. But for me, as an adult, my father died when I was 10 years old. And so I, sort of my teens and 20s, I spent pretty disconnected. And when this stuff started happening in these meetings, it was my first real experience as an adult with that kind of human connection. And so I was all in. Mm-hmm. And I started joining every mastermind I could over the next several years. I started facilitating them and creating them. And guess what happened? My business took off, and I grew that business to $10 million in annual revenue, and I sold it in 2004. And life was good, right? Sell an 8-figure business, life gets pretty good pretty quickly. Absolutely. So next few years, I traveled extensively. I bought 3 other businesses. I invested in a lot of different things. But if anybody's had a period in their time when things were going along swimmingly and something out of your control happens, most of us have been there. In 2008, what's now referred to as the Great Recession, the world financial crisis began. And over the next few years, I lost everything.
Wow.
So within like a 4 year period or 3 to 4 year period, I went from,
Pump your brakes one minute
yeah,
right there. When you say you lost everything, did you take your eye off the prize? Did you lose focus? Did you just get really comfortable, or was it really the financial climate that took you down? Where you take your eye
yeah,
off the
that's a good
prize?
question. Yeah, I mean, it was both. So, I don't blame the world financial crisis on what happened to me. It certainly led to a lot of the things that happened, but I made all the decisions in the investments and the businesses and that kind of thing. And you're right, when you after you sell a business, it does kind of, you let the pedal off the gas some, and that I'm sure was part of it. Yeah, so within a few year period, I went from multimillionaire living in a mansion overlooking one of the rivers of Pittsburgh
Mm, mm,
to
mm.
living in my friend's basement.
Ooh,
Broke, bankrupt, divorced, alone, not just humiliated, but frankly ashamed because I blame myself, right? And so for 15 years, I had built this identity as this really successful serial entrepreneur. And there I was sitting in that basement, didn't even own a car. And I can tell you that obviously that was a difficult time. And I wish I could say I bounced right out of that basement and got back in the
right,
game. But I lived in the basement literally for 5 months, but figuratively more like 5 years.
right.
Because I quit almost everything I was involved in. I quit friendships, I quit networking, I quit many of the masterminds that I was in at that point, except for one. That very first mastermind that I joined, I stayed in that one through that time period. And frankly, I don't think I'd be sitting here today if it weren't for the support that I had from the people in that group,
Right.
because it went way beyond, a basement to live in, a car I could borrow. It was, spiritual support, emotional support. And so for me, in a very real sense, my participation over the years in masterminds helped me 10x my first business and save my life during this difficult time, the most difficult time period that I had.
You had a wife and kids during that time?
This was my second marriage that I lost in that crash. So my kids were a little older, but like teens at that time. Yeah, it was tough.
Did you take your foot off the gas on that too, or did things seem to change when the money changed? Because folks get strange when the money change.
Yeah, well, the marriage went down primarily because of the money thing, but yeah, the kids, my kids are amazing and grown up now, and I never did take the foot off the gas on that. I was able to be there for them.
All right. So did you have your parents still alive, or were they alive during this time?
No, my father when I was
Yeah, your
very
father.
young, and my mother I also lost when I was about 30.
Okay. And then do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have one left. I lost a couple of them too, so I've had a lot of loss in my life.
Yeah. And the reason why I asked that is because there's an element of grief. And I have grief recovery specialists on my show all the time. And see, they think that it's just because someone has died. But it is the loss of your self-esteem. It is the loss of your job. It's the loss of your pet. It's the loss of your finance. It's the loss of your sexuality, your weight. All of these things you have to grieve through. And when you're looking at that kind of money, like I said, you're living in a mansion one day and in the basement. But the biggest thing, the biggest thing that I can see that it might have taught you was humility. Because what don't kill you only makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And so we have to put things into context, and we have to be grateful. I got my piece of paper, gratitude, every single day when I wake up. Just the fact that my eyes open, that I'm breathing, that I'm able to talk to Jay, that I'm able to share with all of you. I'm grateful for those things and the love that it brings. I was reading some of the comments as you posted your promo picture, and I got some straight up love. The person said that they were on my show and that how their business flourished. That does my heart good because it's not about me. It's about you. And it's about that mindset. So I did some work before they sold it at the Chopra Center. And it's not about mindset anymore. It's about consciousness. It's
Mm.
about being aware, but also being around like-minded people. I tell my daughter, you are who you hang around. Tell us what a mastermind is. Tell us what a mastermind does, and tell us how to create a mastermind.
Yeah. So, first of all, let me just say that in the thought leader, coach, speaker, healer world, I'd say about 75% of what is labeled a mastermind is really just glorified group coaching. You know,
Mm-hmm.
people show up, pray to the altar of the guru. There's a little bit of Q&A, maybe a hot seat for good measure, and they call it a mastermind because that's sexier and they can get more money, right? So if we go back to the origin, about 90 years ago, Napoleon Hill coined the term,
That's my.
and
I
his
love
his
big
con
courage.
yep, yep. His concept was very simple. You put one person with a brain in a room, second person with a brain, and it creates this third invisible, intangible force that he called the mastermind. If you imagine putting 8 to 14 brains in the same room, the size of the invisible, intangible force that's created when you tap into the collective experience, collective knowledge, and collective wisdom of all those brains in the room. That's what the mastermind concept is. And that sort of small cohort mastermind, 8 to 14 people, is what Napoleon Hill had in mind. Not like a revolving door where it's different people all the time, and where you build real relationships over time. And as those relationships develop, as the trust and safety in the group develops, that's where you get into the real meaningful transformation, meaningful discussions where people will open up and be vulnerable about the real shit in their lives, not just the surface level stuff that you see in some programs.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
the main difference, one way to look at it between a mastermind and courses or group coaching, is you're transitioning from a one to guru relationship where it's all about you on the stage and teaching and mentoring, and it's a one to many relationship, so that at the end of 6 months or 12 months, whatever your initial commitment is to get into the group program, by the end of that program, like even if you've run out of content, no one wants to leave because now they've got these rich, deep relationships with everybody else in the program, and they're getting so much value, not just from you, the guru, but from all the other brains in the room.
Right.
So that's kind of the distinction between what truly makes a mastermind, what activates that invisible, intangible force that Napoleon Hill talked about, is the magic of the relationships in the room.
Yeah, a lot of times people think, oh, I'm going to join a mastermind because I want to grow my business. But you can't grow your business until you raise your frequency. You can't grow your business until, again, innately you know who you are. You can't grow your business until you tap into your subconscious mind and bring it to the frontal lobe, until you are able to do these things. So when, again, like I said, you build these deep relationships, that's what it is about. A lot of times people think it's just a collective. Oh, okay, well, this person's an accountant. This person is a lawyer. This person is a doctor. And what I'll do is I'll get a little bit of this. And, it's not going to the grocery store. You're not putting everything in your basket. You may be putting it in the basket, but ultimately you're going home to make a salad. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and there are different types of masterminds. So I believe strongly there's no one cookie cutter way to create a mastermind. And with what I do, which is to help coaches, healers, speakers to create masterminds of their own for their clients, to me, it's like putting pieces of a puzzle together, because it's not like you're abandoning your role as the mentor and the coach and the thought leader, but you are more like a guide than you are, the one guru on the stage preaching down to the choir. So when people are putting together programs like this for themselves to grow their own businesses, to serve their own clients, you want to take advantage of your superpowers and figure out how to structure the meetings so that you are, delivering the most value to the clients ultimately, because that's really what it's about.
So when you do it, give us an example of a session of a mastermind. So you as the guru or as the facilitator, you have a set agenda of action items or modules that you're going to go through at any given course. And then you do, is it like exercises? Is it like meditations? Is it like talk therapy? Is it like interactive homework? What goes on in these sessions?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, all of that really. And that's part of the key, is to figure out what is the right formula for you and your clients to maximize the transformation. So, but I'll give you some examples. So I run three masterminds of my own right now. I have a local in-person mastermind here in Pittsburgh of entrepreneurs. We meet once a month. It's like a 3 to 4 hour meeting because we're all making the effort to get there. So, we have a solid long meeting. I have a peer mastermind. So these are other successful coaches, multi 6, 7 figure coaches that are serving the coach market, and we are there together as peers. My role in that mastermind is primarily as a facilitator, because they're not coming into it to learn Jay Fairbrother's, training, Jay Fairbrother's course. We're in it as peers, right? Now I charge them to be in that mastermind. It's not something that fuels the revenue engine of my business, but it's important that people have skin in the game so they take it seriously,
That's right.
make a commitment and show up, right? Because
Right.
that's all about the mutual respect. And that's a key aspect of masterminds. If there's not mutual respect among the participants, and confidentiality and lack of judgment and those kinds of things, then it doesn't gel and activate that Napoleon Hill invisible stuff.
And the money is nothing but energy.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And then I have my third is the client mastermind. Now, in my client mastermind, I do training, I do coaching, and I do mentoring, and I do facilitation. So in my client mastermind, there's times when I'm training them on some specific skill, strategy, or technique they need to grow their business. There's times that I am giving them coaching one-on-one, or mentoring, like on a hot seat in front of others. And then there are times where I am just facilitating a group discussion, and they're all helping each other, and we're pulling that value out of the room,
Mhm.
right? So that's what I mean by there are different ways to structure it, and different you sort of put these puzzle pieces together to figure out what's the best formula for you.
So why do you call your business six-figure masterminds?
A lot of people say I should be calling it 7 figure masterminds.
Mm.
It's a good question, because you hit on this already. It's not about the money. In the coaching world, there's so much, there's so much cachet on getting to 6 figures.
Oh my God, it gets on my
Yeah,
nerve. It
yeah.
gets on my nerve. It's
And
just
and you're absolutely right. Like, until you're aligned energetically, until you're aligned with your branding and your messaging, and you know who the right people to serve, it doesn't, you can spend, all the time and effort and trainings and courses you want. You're not going to get to 6 figures if that stuff's not aligned.
I say that there's always coaches, but they are still just players on the bench
Yeah.
because they don't understand that, number one, how serious it is to call yourself a coach. That person is entrusting their heart, their soul, their finances, their future direction, their self-esteem. I'm sitting here, I can't wait to watch the college football games on television, but I see Coach Prime. He tells these guys all the time, I need you to conduct yourself a certain way because only 5% of you are going to make it to the NFL. The other 95% is not going to do that. So, what are you going to do in between to color in the white space? And they don't get it. They think it's grandiose, and they want to posture and pontificate. Oh, I'm a coach. That no. or an entrepreneur that is entrepreneur. They don't know how to close a deal, Jay. They don't know. And I say this as a woman, I run across them all the time. It has to be co-signed by someone else. It has to be validated. Well, what do you think? Men go out on a golf course, they smoke a cigar and have a scotch and close multi-million-dollar deals in 2 hours. This woman's got to go back and have, not all women now, I'm not one of them, but there's a lot of them, that they're soft. They're playing small. How do we teach people to not be afraid and to raise their vibration? I listen to tapes, I read books, I check in with people like you. How do we keep people at that pace of engagement?
Well, you know what one of the big problems is that the coaching industry itself teaches people to play small.
Really?
Because the coaching industry model, it's called the ascension ladder model. You have a lead magnet, and then you have a low ticket offer, and then you have like a medium ticket offer, and then you have a signature course, and then maybe you have a group coaching program, and eventually you can have a high ticket program or a mastermind. And what I teach people is you can skip a lot of those steps, most of them. You can go right to having a high ticket program, because the beauty in that is that you don't need thousands of people coming into your world in your email list. You're looking for 8 to 14 people who love you. It's not know, like, and trust, it's know, love, and trust. Mm-hmm. 8 to 14 people who know, love, and trust you, are willing to pay the value that you are worth and can deliver to hang out with you and some other really smart people that you hand selected and chose. You don't just allow anyone who can write a check into a mastermind.
Right.
It's curated. You pick the clients that you love to work with. This is why I'm having more fun than, I've owned 9 different businesses in 6 different industries. Wow. I'm having more fun right now because of this exact principle. The one part that you touched on is because energetically I am just so aligned with what I'm doing and passionate about it. But more importantly, I get to hand pick the clients that I work with. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the most exciting part. Like, I get to wake up in the day and go, I get to serve these clients today.
Well, that's like me, my podcast. I've had my own business since I was 5 years old, Jay. Okay. I knew how to close a deal at 5, and I am 63. Okay. And I am not embarrassed about making the ass. Actually, I like to do it for sport and closing on the deal. And I say this to people because they say, oh, well, your podcast is monetized. Absolutely. There is an investment that you need to make in yourself. I've already established myself. I've already built an audience. I have, as we call it in the hood, street cred. I got a ghetto PhD. Absolutely. It is not about hustling. It's about selling to value and knowing your worth. And if you know your worth and you come across someone that can't pay it and it still feels good to you, you go ahead and do it anyway. Because it's not about the money. But you cannot pour from an empty coffin. And it's very hard because you said that you work with healers. Healers feel, from my experience, that they have this intuitive gift that has been given to them by God. And by no means are they supposed to charge for that. Oh, no, I'm supposed to give that away for free. Well, religious doctrines don't give it away for free. I remember a pastor telling me to my face that saving souls was big business. And he's right. I mean, you look at the Catholic diocese. I just came from the Vatican. I could not believe how much money's flowing through there. I go here to the Baptist church. Hallelujah. There's a lot of lead crystal hanging in the bathroom. My God didn't have lolly crystal. And then you have these healers that are true channelers, that are true astroteric. Is that what they call them? They can do astral travel. And the world is we were talking about that earlier, in such a tender place right now. This is the changing of civilization. All this stuff that is happening in the world, from the politics to the change in the climate, is by design.
Yeah.
And we need people like you, Jay, Fairbrother, that is going to help us navigate. Navigate. You are the captain of the ship, and we can't be afraid of that. And so, if it takes money as a vehicle to get the message out, to print the books, to rent the space, um, whatever. But when you come across that person that's down on their luck at the liquor store, and you turn around and you pour into him, that'll be your next multimillionaire because you saw something in him. I've done it a million times.
Yeah.
And people don't get that. They don't get it. They just think, oh, it's the almighty dollar. Do you believe that there's really trillionaires and billionaires? Do you really believe that those people have that kind of money? Or is that just something that I don't believe it.
I'm going to guess that most of them are pretty unhappy too, because
Yeah.
money doesn't create happiness. I wasn't a billionaire, but I was a millionaire, and I wasn't any happier. I had some fun for a little bit, but yeah, that's not what happiness is about. It's not what fulfillment's about. And you're right. Like, there so many people, not just the healers, but a lot of these people just starting out with coaching and life coaches, and they want to serve everybody. They think they can help everybody, and they're afraid to be greedy. Well, the until you're whatever point you're satisfied with, whether that's six figures or multi six figures or seven or eight, doesn't matter. First of all, when you get to that point where it's enough for you, then by all means, go serve the guy outside the liquor store. Go serve the people who can't afford you, as a donation back to the world for those people. But you can't do that because you're not going to be whole unless you are making enough money so that you feel safe, secure, and can really bring your genius into the world, right? And that's the energetics too. Like, until you're energetically fine with, I have no attachment to getting clients. In other words, and I'm like you, I've done sales for a long time. I'm comfortable with it. But I don't get attached to, like, oh, I've got to get this client. I've got, I'm going to be crushed if this person says no, right? Because the person who says no is not the right person that I should be helping anyway.
But
The
no,
people,
number one, is a complete sentence. And no is the word on spelled backwards.
yeah, I love that.
So I say it's on to the next one. There's 8 billion people on the planet.
Yeah,
And the put down is the setup. It just makes you sharper in your game.
yeah,
It makes you think. When someone tells me no, or something doesn't work out my way, then I sit back and I say, okay, I'm not going to take it personal, but I'm going to look at it and I'm going to dissect it. What could I have done better,
right.
differently? Or I come to the realization that that just was not for me.
Yeah,
People don't
yeah,
accept that.
yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, and it's all about constant improvement. I do virtual 3-day events is my main way that I attract clients into my world. And at first I did those events because my mentor said you got to do a 3-day event, and the thought of it like made my skin crawl. But I was like, okay, if you tell me that's what I need to do, right? And I started doing them, and now it's my favorite thing to do. But not because somebody told me to do it, but because I've evolved that event, because every time it's better, it's tweaked, it's improved, because I'm constantly looking at what can I do better to serve people? How can I create more transformation? And so now it's like, this is all about the transformation that people get when they come to these things. And it's just fun.
Yeah, but I saw you somewhere barefoot in a hut, like doing some tricked out work. So they're not all virtual. Are you doing retreats too? It looked like and I was just kind of panning the audience, not looking at you, but kind of panning the audience. They were hanging on to every word you said. You had them transfixed.
Yeah, I do some of these retreats. That was in Costa Rica this past year. We're going back again next year, and then I'm also doing a trip to Japan next year, where
Mm,
they're intimate retreats for business owners to create lifestyle businesses. And so on those retreats, I'm one of the leaders, and we do workshops and yeah, that and bring it back to masterminds. There's nothing that can replace the in-person experience with masterminds, right? We can get pretty close with virtual, especially now that people are comfortable on Zoom, and we'll hang out on Zoom for a couple hours. But the in-person experience is always going to create deeper relationships and further that psychological safety.
it is. It is. Well, we've done the deep dive. Thank you for that. Now I want to ask you some fun questions. This is my favorite part of the interview. If you were an appliance in the kitchen, what appliance would you be, Jay Fairbrother, and why?
I think I would be the coffee maker because I can get hot quickly, but then it's a slow drip.
Hmm.
Because my style is not about like rah rah, whiz bang, look over here. My sort of the way I work with people is more like a slow drip, and then they get coffee in the end, so everybody's happy.
I want to be the trash can. I know you think, well, why the trash can? Because I want to be the place where you dispose of the things that no longer serve you. I want to be the place where you can recycle. I want to be the thing that you take out often and regularly. The trash can. No problem with that.
I love that.
If you were an animal, what animal would you be and why?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I think I probably wouldn't have answered this way for most of my life, but I think at this point it would be a butterfly. And it's just
You know
because,
what? I just wrote that down. That's the same thing I would be.
yeah.
Why would you be the butterfly?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the metamorphosis that I went through in terms of, my losing everything and now bouncing back. And it didn't happen overnight, like the butterfly. I was in that cocoon for quite a while. And so, yeah, and that energy, I think, also is, characteristic of how I am now.
I just came from Aruba and I went to the butterfly farm and I saw the butterflies. And as a child, I used to raise them and the metamorphosis of change and how they go from this egg to this worm into this chrysalis into this butterfly that only lives about 30 days. But the freedom. And I used to ask my mother, I said, Mama, I said, when you pass away and you come back to me, what are you going to be? She said, I will always be the butterfly. So we're in alignment right there, my friend. Out of the 9 planets in our solar system, what planet do you align with the most?
Yikes. I don't even know if I could name all 9 planets. I think the smartass in me would say Uranus, and only because of the name, just because I like the playful part of the name.
I would love to be Saturn. I like all the rings and the energy and the solar system and the frequency and the vibration. Yeah, I'd be out there on Saturn. Do you believe that there are other life forces and life sources in our solar system or beyond? I don't like to call them aliens. I think that's just kind of. Hmm. Do you think that there's other life forces in the universe?
Yeah, I think that's very probable.
I think so.
So most of my sort of spirituality is grounded in quantum physics.
Me too. We're gonna be besties. Oh my God. Oh, my husband will tell me, he says, baby, could you get Joe Dispenza out of our bed? Because he can put down a meditation like no other. I was scheduled to go to one of his 5-day workshops, and I couldn't go because I hadn't taken the prerequisite before. But I felt that if I had have went, my mind would have just been blown into a million pieces because it is some heavy work.
Yeah.
And that's what people have to understand now, that again, like I say, we are going to that next level of ascension. Brains, this is not it. This is not it. We are, I believe, in a lunar vortex. I believe that we are in the portal right now, and it is going at warp speed. When you talk about artificial intelligence, when you look at the book of Revelations, when you look again at our social activities with our humanity, our sexuality, our children, our finance, all of that's changing. I mean, you go places now, they don't even want cash. They don't want cash. They want electronic. So, people say, oh, I'm not into cryptocurrency. Well, you better learn about what it is, because all of that is changing. That paper dollar is not worth squat diddly. So if you had an opportunity to time travel, go back to the past, stay here in the present, project to the future. Where you landing, Jay?
I would love to see what it looks like on the other side of this portal that we're in or entering right now, because it's pretty damn ugly out there at the moment. And I believe that there are enough people in the world who are assisting in the movement in that portal to create a better outcome, to create more consciousness, and to end up with a better world. I'd love to see what that looks like.
Me too, but you know what? I'm gonna try to stay right here in the present, because it's fascinating. It's upsetting and it's nerving if you allow the idiot box and social media and all that kind of stuff to dictate what's going on. But if you stay in your lane, it's pretty fascinating to see what's going on and not be afraid and not fall into uh, that endless echo chamber of nonsense, the constant reverberation of negativity and what somebody thought. Like my mother, she says opinions are like assholes, everybody got them and they all stink. So I'm like, well, you gotta get yourself together, and it's about self. And I think again, mastering the mind is beautiful, but when you have that collective and you have like-minded energies, you have a wonderful facilitator, someone that cares about you, that understands um, what this is about. And I do believe in my heart of hearts that Jay Fairbrother is that brother that has an idea, because you've lived it. You've been there, done that, and you wear the t-shirt and you share and you care. And you're wealthy. You're beyond rich, you know, you're
You
wealthy.
know, it relates to what you were saying earlier too, is that when you are aligned with your passion, when you love what you're doing, you love your clients, like all this outside noise from the world, it's like you have a little force field, because that stuff just bounces off you. It's when you are in situations, usually we self-impose on ourselves where we're struggling. That's when you're penetrable, right? That's outside stuff can get right to you. But when you are having fun, passionate, successful, you love what every day, like what you're doing, like it's so much easier to keep that outside noise out.
It is. And brains, the most important thing to know is that you got a choice. You got free will. You have a choice. You can stay there in the basement and wallow in self pity, or you can pick yourself up and go back to that same group of individuals. I was thinking about my girlfriend. My girlfriend, she was much like you. She had so much money, the law shouldn't allow it. And it went, you know, downhill after that. And I went over to her apartment and I said, you looking like brand new money. I said, you feeling good today? She goes, yeah. She says, I'm picking myself up by the bootstraps and I'm going right back to where it all began and started all over again. So again, it's understanding the ability, the innate ability that we have inside of us. It's not an outside influence. You got to do the inside. It's an inside job. You got to do the work. And Jay can have you in as many mastermind sessions as possible. But if you don't take those tools and implement them and work with them and sharpen your knife, you know, you're going to end up in me, the trash can. Thank you, Jay. You are just wonderful. Oh my goodness, we're going to be best of buddies. When you come to San Diego or I come to Pittsburgh, I got to come and be in person. I got to be in the room with you for sure because it is definitely going to be a heightened experience. Tell my brains how to get in contact with you. If you have any current promotions, offerings, or just how they can to tap into one of your masterminds.
Yeah. So I'm very easy to find on the internet with Jay Fair. Just look up Jay Fairbrother. My website is sixfiguremasterminds.com. And just look for, I do master classes. I do the 3-day events. The 3-day virtual events are a great way for both people sort of just exploring this idea, as well as 6 and 7 figure coaches who want to, create that multi-6 figure program. Everybody's welcome at the 3-day events, and everybody gets value.
Well, I can't imagine getting anything else. So, Brains, what I need for you to do is love, like, share, and subscribe. Yes, to On the Edge. All of Jay's information is going to be at the back of the interview. We're going to run this interview a million times on all the social media platforms, except for 2. I'm not on X, and I'm not a TikToker. But anywhere else you can Google me, you can find me here on the planet. I thank you. I appreciate you. I give you your flowers. I think that you are a wonderful soul. And thank you for being selfless and not letting all the other influences of the world deter you from reaching your highest and greatest good and pouring that over into others. Thank you so much for being on the show, Jay.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, Brains. Do your due diligence. Get yourself together. I love you guys. Bye-bye.